Hello there! I hope you enjoyed watching my version of Revenge of the Sith. Now, let's go over what I changed. From things that didn't make sense, to things that didn't connect well with the original trilogy, to things I just thought were stupid. We're gonna talk about them all. Now, first things last. In my movie, we don't get to see Vader in the suit. If I were writing this movie, my goal would be to not spoil the original trilogy as much as I can. This is one of the most iconic introductions in movie history. And if you've never seen Star Wars before, the end of Revenge of the Sith takes that away from you. Imagine you've never seen Star Wars before, and you started with episode 1. After my episode 3, you're not even sure if Vader/Anakin is even alive, let alone what he's going to look like coming out of it. And then for the first time, you get to see what Anakin's become. That would be almost as good as seeing Star Wars in 1977. A true introduction of one of the greatest villains in movie history. Instead, we've got Darth Vader looking like Frankenstein and crying about Padme. Speaking of Padme, you don't get to see her give birth. There's no need to see this or introduce Luke and Leia in this movie. Padme can't die here, but we'll get into that later. Padme's gonna have the twins later, and there's nothing in the original trilogy that says Vader knew he had children until Luke Skywalker came on the scene. So there's no reason to subject your audience to this, except to kill Padme, and we're not doing that. I understand it was supposed to be artistic, to have Padme be given birth, and Anakin being put in his suit, but we're not doing either, because both scenes take away from the series. And the same goes for Yoda landing on Dagobah. Why did we need to see that? That scene belongs to The Empire Strikes Back. Again, if you're seeing these movies for the first time, at the end of my Revenge of the Sith, you don't know where Yoda goes. Then a couple movies later, you find out he's been in a swamp for 20 years. Way better. We're also not gonna see the Death Star. Another pointless scene. And the Death Star's a better reveal in A New Hope. In Return of the Jedi, Luke asks if Leia remembers her real mom. And Leia says barely. She died when Leia was very young. I always thought that meant Leia had grown up with her mom. At least for a little while. But to George Lucas, that meant that Leia met her mother when she was newborn. George Lucas deliberately made this scene to cover up for Leia's lines in Return of the Jedi. If you watch the scene, only Leia is shown to Padme, and Luke hangs out in the back with the nurse droid. The whole plot of Anakin's turn to the dark side relied on Padme's death, and we'll get into that later. But Lucas had painted himself into a corner. Leia remembered her mother. So George made up this pointless scene so he can check off the boxes. A very young Leia remembers the sad Padme before she dies. I'll buy spaceships and laser swords, but my suspension of disbelief only goes so far. It makes more sense for Padme to go into hiding and die off screen when Leia is older. Next, I want to talk about separating Luke and Leia. In Revenge of the Sith, it's not explained why they have to be separated. Who they were given to, that's the problem. I mean, Bail Organa and his wife, that makes sense. Bail worked with Padme, and giving Leia to a royal family, they knew she would be taken care of. But Owen and Beru Lars, this makes no sense. Obi-Wan might as well have given Luke to the first person he met on the streets. These people are complete strangers. Anakin and Padme met them for a few days, and Obi-Wan Kenobi never met them. For all Kenobi knew, Owen Lars was a child-molesting abuser, and giving Luke to a couple who lives right next door to Anakin's mother's grave. Real smart, Kenobi. I know I already went over this in part 1, but I can't let it go. Kenobi says, "It's over, Anakin. I've got the high ground." And in a stupid retort, Anakin says, "You underestimate my power." Which, considering Anakin's plan, translates to, "You underestimate how high I can jump." I guess most of Anakin's power resides in his jumping ability. But Anakin was wrong. Obi-Wan knew exactly how high he can jump. If Anakin had just done a little hop off of his hovercraft, he could have just walked up to Obi-Wan and continued the battle. In this fight alone, they've switched off on who has the high ground and who doesn't. And the battle wasn't over. So I don't know what Obi-Wan Kenobi's talking about. And I don't know why Anakin didn't just fight him on the hill. At least Anakin learned his lesson. Take this fight with Luke Skywalker. Instead of jumping up to the platform that Luke was on, Vader just threw his lightsaber at Luke. But imagine if having the high ground really meant you won the fight. Doctor Strange says, "It's over, Thanos. I've got the high ground." Baby Simba says, "It's over, Scar. I've got the high ground." Superman says, "I always have the high ground." And Jesus Christ says, "It's over, Brazil. I've got the high ground." My next question is, why did Palpatine lie to the Senate? Palpatine stands up in front of the Senate, looking like he's aged 300 years. Says that out of nowhere, the Jedi turned bad and tried to take over the galaxy. So he's declaring himself the Emperor, and he's gonna hunt down the Jedi and exterminate them. And out of the thousands of senators, not one of them has a question about this. They all just start clapping and say, "You got it, dude." Palpatine's one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He's in control over one of the only armies in the universe. And he's killed all the Jedi. Why does he have to lie at all? Palpatine should be declaring that the Sith have taken over the galaxy, and he now runs everything. No story needed. Tell the Senate you killed the Jedi. Tell them that they've got no power anymore. And if one of them speaks up, send a bolt of lightning his way. But the point is, making up this story of a Jedi revolution was not only unbelievable, but it was pointless. Alright, let's talk about Anakin's turn to the dark side in this movie. At first, he's just a happy-go-lucky Jedi, one of the best, and the chosen one. And then Anakin gets passed up for promotion, and starts having bad dreams about his wife dying. And then he talks to Palpatine, who vaguely tells him that he can stop Padme from dying, which causes Anakin to choose to chop off Mace Windu's hand, and then pledge himself to the dark side and the Sith. Kind of a quick turnaround if you ask me. And I don't know why you need this contrived plot. Anakin was a slave, and then fought in a war. Those are two things that can turn anyone to the dark side. And if Anakin was so worried about Padme dying in childbirth, why didn't he take her to a doctor? All the other scenes in this movie are filler. Just spectacle to distract us from the fact that the plot and the characters' choices make no sense. And the movie is so fast-paced, you don't have time to think about it. But where the characters end up make no sense from where they started. And nothing bothers me more than the villains. Not Palpatine, he's great. But Dooku and Grievous. Count Dooku was introduced in the middle of Attack of the Clones, and then was beheaded in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. General Grievous was introduced in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, and died in the middle of Revenge of the Sith. Both villains were filler until we can get Anakin Skywalker to do enough bad things to call him Darth Vader. They weren't important to the plot, and they had no ties to our heroes. Like the original trilogy, there should have been one villain throughout all three movies. A villain with emotional ties to our heroes. An emotional tie like having killed one of the hero's masters. I hope you enjoyed my criticism and rewriting of Revenge of the Sith and the whole Star Wars prequel trilogy. I also rewrote the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It's much better than the original. Not better than the original Star Wars trilogy. It's better than the original sequel trilogy. Anyway, have a great day.
Kiss a Wookiee, kick a toy, fly the Falcon through an asteroid till the princess is annoyed. This is spaceships, it's monsters, it's Star Wars we love.